How's it going, everyone? We've got some Gears of War Reloaded updates to go over in this video. Might have to put the halt on a rumor that has been circulating a little bit. Now, I'm not saying this is completely untrue, but the news has been making the rounds that Gears of War Reloaded was gonna get a physical release. It was noted by Spanish retailer Game, however, it seems like they've retracted that statement. We'll talk about that. However, we do know that Gears of War Reloaded is getting some PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements, and we'll talk that at the end of this video. Right off the bat, Microsoft and physical gaming has been a bit of a slippery slope, to say the least. As far as them releasing physical titles, Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5 did not get a physical release. However, it seems like that game is selling really well. There was an analytical study that was done that game has sold 1.2 million copies, which, if that's true, that's an outstanding number for a delayed release of a game on PlayStation 5, so credit to them if they did sell that many copies. But Forza Horizon 5, no physical release on that. Indiana Jones, while it did get a physical release, if you want to call it a physical release, that is your prerogative, but it requires a download for you to play the game. Gears of War Reloaded is a game that I know people would love to have a physical copy of. Just the idea also of walking into a store and seeing a box that says Gears of War on it and the PlayStation 5 logo slapped on it, or the PlayStation 5 case, I would imagine that's how people felt back in the day when, like, Sega got more out of the console business and Sonic started appearing on other platforms, like on Nintendo platforms and whatnot. I just imagine that's how they felt. That was a little bit before my time to really appreciate Sega hardware, but and that's what I would feel like if I went to a store, and I don't think there's ever been a release that would make me feel like that, like, oh my god, this franchise is on that platform. Like, yeah, when Final Fantasy came out on Xbox 360, was it that big of a deal? I guess it was at the time. Like, Final Fantasy 13, I believe, was the first one that came out on Xbox. Maybe Final Fantasy 11 was, but Final Fantasy 13, the first mainline one. But I never thought about it in that sense, in that, to me, Final Fantasy was always entrenched with PlayStation, because you had games like Crystal Chronicles coming out on GameCube and so on and so forth. Gears of War is that IP that's a mascot for Microsoft. That is a literal mascot, and it's akin to a God of War, a Uncharted, just IPs that are so entwined with that brand. And yeah, Forza is certainly entwined with Microsoft, but you can't really make a car your mascot. You can make the characters from Gears of War. You can make Marcus a mascot for Xbox, and I do believe he has been a mascot for Xbox. So just that idea of that box being in store, I would just think it's mind-blowing, and I think a lot of other people that are maybe lapsed fans of video games and trying to get back into video games, like, could you imagine somebody that's in their late 30s, early 40s, they're trying to get back into gaming, they're deciding on what console to pick up, maybe they played Xbox 360 games back in the mid-2000s, and they go into a store and they see that Gears of War is on PlayStation. I feel like even for the most lapsed of gaming consumers, that would be a little bit of a shock to them, because Gears of War, Halo, those are the two IPs, and I guess Fable to an extent, but as far as mascots go, it's Master Chief, and then it's Marcus from Gears of War for me, as far as those mascots that the Xbox IP is built around. So the value of having that box in stores, I think that would be a value for PlayStation, not Microsoft, so to speak, that you're just promoting your IP in stores as well. But I think that would be an incredible value that you would be offering PlayStation, and you know, I think people would understate how big that would be. If they don't do a physical release for Gears of War Reloaded, I really feel like once they do Gears of War 2 and 3, then you bundle it all together, and ideally you would get that in stores. And if it's not that, Gears of War E-Day, you would have to assume is going to get a physical release, because that's a big $70 game. Microsoft seems to be not releasing the more budget titles physically. South of Midnight, for example, didn't get a physical release. Now, I think the value of getting Gears of War Reloaded as a physical release versus South of Midnight, orders of magnitude different. Even a game like Hellblade 2, which was a $50 release, a bigger game, that didn't get a physical release. So if your South of Midnights of the world and your Hellblade 2s aren't getting physical releases, and obviously games like Hi-Fi Rush didn't get a physical release, I don't know if Limited Run did any runs of games like that, but there have been very few budget titles that get physical releases. You'll see PlayStation, they'll roll out a physical copy of Helldivers 2 But as far as Microsoft goes and them releasing physical titles that are more on the budget side of things, that doesn't really happen when you look at the games that they've been putting out, like a Grounded, a Hi-Fi Rush. Sea of Thieves does have a physical release, but Sea of Thieves also came out on the Xbox One, and that was a different generation. So, you know, when you look at what happened in the past, Gears of War versus every single game I just mentioned, Hellblade 2, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and South of Midnight, Gears of War Reloaded would offer so much more value on the physical side of things. I just wouldn't push the cart before the horse a little bit too much. They did note that they've received confirmation from the manufacturer about boxed PS5 versions, but again, they've delisted it and they've deleted the tweet as well from what I can see. So I wouldn't get too excited about that. Fingers crossed that it does happen, but at this point, I don't think it's all too likely. But to be fair, pre-orders for Gears of War Reloaded have not opened up yet, so generally speaking, those physical listings do go live whenever pre-orders digitally go live as well. Like Mafia: The Old Country, the pre-orders went live yesterday digitally. The physical version is now available to pre-order as well. So we'll see how all of that turns out. Moving on from that, it should be noted that Gears of War Reloaded is getting PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements. To what extent these enhancements are going to be, we do not know yet, but given that Forza Horizon 5 has gotten Pro enhancements, given that Indiana Jones got Pro enhancements, this isn't going to be a case of, oh, it's a Microsoft published game, so we want to stay away from the game's best console version being on the PS5 Pro. At this point, who cares? You're putting the games on PlayStation, optimize it as best as you can, get them to a level where PlayStation fans are gonna gravitate towards them. You've got the foot out the door. It's not like PlayStation is porting their games to PC with the intentional idea of them being bad PC ports or not optimized enough, because more often than not, Nix's software does a pretty good job of optimizing these games on PC. Now, you have train wrecks like Spider-Man 2, don't get me wrong, but you look at something like The Last of Us Part 2, you look at the first Spider-Man, Nix's software has been crushing it as far as optimizing those games on PC in a lot of instances, or, you know, relative to what PC consumers are expecting with so many bad PC ports. But, you know, if you're gonna come to a platform, put your best foot forward. We're here to make money as far as selling these games, and you're selling them at a premium. Forza Horizon 5 came out at $60 on PlayStation 5. Even Gears of War Reloaded, that's coming out at $40. We don't have a pathway like Xbox Game Pass. You're paying a premium if you're on PlayStation 5, and people are happy to do so. Give them the best possible version that you can get, and with Gears of War Reloaded, they're gonna give you PS5 Pro enhancements. Not to say that's gonna make the experience orders of magnitude different, given the fact that this is an Xbox 360 game, and it's an enhanced release of a upgraded release on the Xbox One. So, you know, it's Gears of War 1 at the end of the day. People are more so excited about the experience and the novelty of Gears of War on PlayStation. And I think that's why you've got Gears of War Reloaded coming out standalone for $40. And I do wonder if they would follow a similar formula with Halo. And there's rumblings of a Halo 1 ground-up remake, and then the Master Chief Collection also coming to PlayStation 5. Individual Halo games being released on PlayStation 5 in terms of making money, I do think makes a lot of sense, because that novelty after a while will wear off. But for Gears of War to be on PlayStation 5, guys, this is gonna sell incredibly well. When you got the Gears of War banners on the PlayStation Store and on the PlayStation home screen, I just think that's gonna do so well, and this game is gonna be a gigantic success. And you've got full cross-platform play. You're getting those upgrades, and I'm sure they're eventually gonna do Gears of War 2 and 3. Gears of War 2 and 3, I thought, those were the games that they got real cooking with the multiplayer. So while Gears of War Reloaded is gonna have multiplayer, it is an enhanced release of that Ultimate Edition on Xbox One, and that did have multiplayer as well. So that doesn't excite me as much as like Gears 2 having multiplayer and Gears 3 having multiplayer, and that remains to be seen whether or not we'll get multiplayer on those games. What I think will happen, and I've seen this idea thrown around as well, Gears Reloaded comes out in August of 2025. Then Gears E-Day comes out in 2026, and then you do the Gears 2 and 3 remasters after that. And maybe with those games, you do a collection and you won't have multiplayer included, because I actually think that makes a lot of sense. You release Reloaded, you get players invested into the Gears IP on PlayStation, then you do E-Day, and then sometime down the line after that, maybe you could do Gears 2 and 3 if you don't want to do multiplayer, competitive multiplayer, because you've already got E-Day out as your competitive multiplayer experience. maybe you can have the Horde components and you can bundle those two together, and I think you could sell that for $59.99. We're talking about making the most amount of money possible and keeping the multiplayer experience prioritized to E-Day, and I do think that sequence is the best way to go about it from Microsoft's lens, but we'll see how they ultimately do it. With Reloaded, remember this is going to be an enhanced release featuring 4K resolution, 120 frames per second support, so support on that, I would imagine on the Pro, it could go up to 120 FPS, and it's 60 FPS in campaign, 120 FPS in multiplayer. You've got HDR, Dolby Vision, and 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos, 7.1.4 3D spatial audio, VRR, 4K assets and remastered textures, enhanced post-processing visual effects, improved shadows and reflections, super resolution with improved anti-aliasing, and 0 loading screens during the campaign. Now, it's not like the Gears of War campaign is this incredibly lengthy experience, and maybe some people, and I saw people in our comment section say that even the $40 price tag is too much. Look, while Gears 1 is this, shorter campaign that you're gonna go through, it is such a great game, and Gears is one of those games that you put in the catalog that I'll be doing replays of for a very, and I mean a very long time. Gears 1 is that damn good, and Gears 2 and 3 are great as well, but just because we're getting Gears 1 right now, yeah, it's an 8 to 10 hour campaign, but guys, I'll get 3, 4, 5 playthroughs out of this game out of the next, 5 to 7 years. I'm not saying I'm doing all those playthroughs back to back, but when I got a free weekend and there's not a lot of other games that I'm really itching to play, Gears is gonna be one of those games I look at and say, man, might be time for another Gears playthrough, and especially when you got friends to play with, it's gonna be a good time overall, and I think it's gonna be well worth your $40, and I think it's gonna do incredibly well. I think people are gonna be shocked by how good this game does on PlayStation 5. Even if you think it's overpriced, I do believe you're in a minority there. I think people will be more than happy to spend $39.99 on this, but that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Really interested for all of you guys, because yes, sometimes we'll get stuck in that vocal minority about the price point. $39.99 for the game, buy or pass. And remember this, Gears of War Reloaded comes out in the same 3-day span as Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, Lost Soul and I think there's one other game, maybe like Ninja Gaiden Rebound or something like that, or the Shinobi game. There's another smaller game, but the 3 major ones are MGS3, Delta Snake Eater, Lost Soul and Gears of War Reloaded. That is gonna be an insane couple of days for gaming, but that'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.